My name is Adeline and I'm 18 years old. I never thought that the best thing to ever happen to me would also become the worst. But that's exactly what my grandmother's love turned into. I lived with my mom, Claire, my stepfather, Greg, and my younger stepsister, Vanessa. She was 16, and honestly, we were never close. Not like real sisters anyway. Greg married my mom when I was 12, and from that day on, I always felt like I was on the outside looking in. They had their own little family unit, and I was just ... There, the extra person at the dinner table. The one who didn't quite fit into their perfect picture. But I had my grandmother. She was my safe place. When Mom was too busy with her new husband and stepdaughter, Grandma was the one who picked me up from school. She taught me how to bake cookies, how to be strong, how to stand up for myself. She told me stories about her life, about how she built everything on her own after my grandfather died. She always said, Adeline, you're special. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small. 2 months ago, she passed away. I cried for weeks. I felt like I'd lost the only person who truly saw. Me, who truly loved me unconditionally. The funeral was small and quiet. I noticed Mom and Greg whispering in the corner afterward. But I was too heartbroken to care what they were talking about. Then, a week after the funeral, the lawyer called. Grandma had left me her house. Not the family, not my mom, just me. It was a small house in a beautiful neighborhood, with a little garden in the front and a porch where Grandma used to sit and watch the sunset. It wasn't a mansion, but it was worth something. More importantly, it was filled with memories. It was hers. And now it was mine. I thought my family would be happy for me. I thought they'd understand that Grandma wanted me to have something stable, something that was just for me. But I was so wrong. The moment Mom found out, her face changed. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was something colder. Greg didn't even try to hide his anger. He said that house should belong to the whole family. Your grandmother was being selfish. Vanessa started avoiding me completely, like I'd done something terrible to her. I didn't understand. Why were they so upset? Grandma had her reasons. She raised me. She loved me. But suddenly that love felt like a crime. Every time I walked into a room, the conversation would stop. Every time I mentioned the house, the air would get heavy and tense. My mom stopped looking me in the eye. I started to feel afraid in my own home. Not because of what they said, but because of what they didn't say. The silence was louder than any argument. And deep down, I knew something bad was coming. I just didn't know how bad it would get. That house was supposed to be my future. Instead, it became the reason my family turned against me 3 weeks after the funeral. I was sitting in my room, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the coldness that had settled over our house like fog. That's when I saw the message. It was from a woman named Margaret. Her profile picture showed an older lady with kind eyes and silver hair. The message was simple but unsettling. Dear Adeline, I was your grandmother's neighbor and closest friend. I need to speak with you urgently. It's about your family. Please meet me at Rosie's Cafe tomorrow at 3. This is important. My heart started racing. Part of me wanted to delete it and pretend I never saw it. But another part of me, the part that had been feeling so alone and confused, needed answers. I wrote back, okay, I'll be there. The next day, I walked into Rosie's Cafe with my stomach in knots. Margaret was already sitting at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. When she saw me, she smiled, but it was a sad smile. The kind that says, I wish I didn't have to tell you this. I sat down across from her, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Her skin was warm and soft, like Grandma's used to be. That simple touch almost made me cry. Your grandmother talked about you constantly, Margaret said quietly. She loved you more than anything in this world, okay? And she was worried about you. Adeline, very worried. Worried? About what? I asked. Margaret took a deep breath. About what would happen after she was gone. About your mother and that man she married." Her voice dropped even lower. At the funeral, I overheard them talking outside. Greg was saying things like, "We need to convince her to sell, and she's just a kid. She'll do what we tell her." Your mother was agreeing with him? They were planning Adeline, planning how to take that house from you. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. My own mother. I wanted to tell Margaret she was wrong, that she must have misunderstood, but deep down, I knew she wasn't. Lying. Everything suddenly made sense. The cold looks, the whispers, the anger. They think you're young and easy to manipulate. Margaret continued. They'll try guilt first. They'll tell you that family shares everything, that you're being selfish. And if that doesn't work, she paused, her eyes filled with concern. If that doesn't work, they might do something worse. My hands were shaking. What do I do? Margaret pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. "This is Stephen. He's a lawyer and he's good. Your grandmother actually spoke to him before she passed away. She wanted to make sure you'd be protected. Call him Adeline. Today." I stared at the card, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. From beyond the grave, Grandma was still trying to take care of me. But it also meant she knew this would happen. She knew my own mother would betray me. "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why would Mom do this to me?" Margaret's expression turned hard. "Because some people care more about money than they do about love. And Greg has been filling her head with ideas ever since they got married. Your grandmother saw it happening. That's why she made sure the house went to you and only you." I left that cafe feeling like my whole world had shattered. But I also left with something I didn't have before. A plan. A protector. And the knowledge that I wasn't going crazy. My family really was turning against me. And now I had to decide whether I was going to fight back or let them win. I called Stephen the next morning. His voice was calm and professional, and just hearing him say, "We'll protect what's yours, Adeline," made me feel a tiny bit safer. He told me to keep records of everything, to stay alert, and to call him immediately if things escalated. I thought I had time. I thought maybe I could figure this out quietly, peacefully. But Greg and my mother had other plans. It was a Tuesday evening, 5 days after I met Margaret. I was doing homework at the kitchen table when Greg walked in and sat down across from me. Mom followed, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. Vanessa stood in the doorway, watching like this was some kind of show. "We need to talk about the house," Greg said. No greeting, no warmth, just business. My chest tightened. "What about it? You're 18, Adeline. You're young. You don't understand what it takes to maintain a property, pay taxes, handle repairs. That house is too much responsibility for a kid." He leaned forward, his eyes cold. "The smart thing to do is sell it. If we can split the money as a family, everyone benefits. That's what family does." I looked at my mother, hoping, praying she'd defend me. But she just nodded along with him like a puppet. "Grandma left it to me," I said quietly. "She wanted me to have it." Greg's jaw clenched. "Your grandmother was sick and sentimental. She wasn't thinking clearly. You need to think about what's best for everyone, not just yourself." "I am thinking," I said, my voice trembling, "and I'm keeping the house." The temperature in the room dropped. Greg's face turned red. "You selfish little brat. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." "Greg, please," Mom said, but her voice was weak, like she didn't really mean it. "No, Claire, she needs to hear this." He turned back to me, his voice like ice. "If you're adult enough to own property, then you're adult enough to take care of yourself. You want to keep that house so badly? Fine, but you're not living under my roof while you disrespect this family." My heart stopped. What are you saying?" "I'm saying pack your things tonight. You're leaving." I looked at my mother again, tears streaming down my face. "Mom, please. You can't let him do this. Please." But she wouldn't look at me. She just stared at the floor, silent. And that silence broke me more than any words could have. "Mom," I sobbed. "Say something." Vanessa laughed from the doorway. Actually laughed. "You brought this on yourself, Adeline. You could have just shared, but no, you had to be greedy." Outside, snow was falling. So the weather report had warned about a blizzard coming through. Temperatures dropping below freezing. They were throwing me out into it. I ran to my room, stuffing clothes into my suitcase, my whole body shaking. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. But 20 minutes later, Greg was standing at my door, arms crossed, waiting. "Let's go," he said. I dragged my suitcase down the stairs, each step feeling like a nightmare. When we reached the front door, Greg opened it. The wind howled, snow already piling up outside. It was so cold I could barely breathe. "Please," I whispered one last time, "don't do this." Greg grabbed my suitcase and threw it outside into the snow. Then he looked at me with absolute disgust. "You made your choice. Now live with it." He shoved me forward. I stumbled out into the freezing night, and behind me I heard the door slam shut. Then the lock clicked. I stood there in the blizzard, completely alone, and realized my own mother had just chosen money over me. I stood on that porch for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The snow stung my face like tiny needles, and my tears froze on my cheeks before they could fall. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains inside. My mother? My stepfather. They were probably already celebrating, thinking they'd broken me. But then something shifted inside me. Maybe it was the cold clearing my head. Maybe it was pure survival instinct. Or maybe it was my grandmother's voice in my memory saying, "Don't ever let anyone make you feel small." I wasn't small. And I wasn't broken. I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers and called Stephen. It rang 3 times before he answered. "Adeline, are you okay?" His voice sounded alarmed. "They threw me out," I said, my teeth chattering so hard I could barely speak, "into a blizzard." They locked the door. There was a long pause. Then Stephen's voice turned sharp and professional. "Where are you right now? Still outside the house? Listen to me carefully. Take a photo of yourself standing there. Get a picture of your suitcase in the snow. Then walk to the nearest gas station or store and call an Uber to the Comfort Inn on Marshall Street. I'll call ahead and pay for your room tonight. Do you understand?" I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Yes, good. And Adeline, what they just did, that's going to cost them everything. I'll see you first thing tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock, my office." I did exactly what he said. I took the photos, even though my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I took pictures of the closed door, the locked handle, my suitcase half buried in snow, evidence. Then I walked 4 blocks through the blizzard to a 24-hour convenience store, where the clerk looked at me like I was insane for being outside. The motel room was small and smelled like cleaning chemicals, but it was warm. I sat on the bed, still in my wet clothes, staring at nothing. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to call my mother and beg her to take me back. But the stronger part of me, the part that was my grandmother's granddaughter, knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed to fight. The next morning, I walked into Stephen's office with my suitcase and those photos. He looked at them, his expression growing darker with each one. "This is criminal," he said quietly. "They endangered you. A minor weather emergency, sub-zero temperatures, and they forced you out. We could pursue charges. I don't want them arrested," I said. My voice was steady now, stronger than it had been in weeks. "I just want them to leave me alone. I want to keep my house." Stephen nodded. "Then here's what we're going to do." Kate laid out the plan. The house was legally mine, protected by Grandma's will. No one could force me to sell it. But my family would likely continue pressuring me. Maybe even try to forge documents or manipulate me into signing something under duress. So we would set a trap. "I want you to pretend to consider their offer," Stephen explained. "Let them think they're winning. Meanwhile, I'm filing protective orders with the court, documenting everything they've done. If they try anything illegal, we'll have them." He slid a small recording device across the desk. Every conversation you have with them from now on gets recorded. Every text message, every voicemail, save it. They think you're a helpless kid. Let them keep thinking that. I picked up the recorder, feeling its weight in my palm. It was small, but it felt powerful. "One more thing," Stephen said, meeting my eyes. "Your grandmother set aside some money in a trust for you. Not much, but enough to cover your expenses for a few months while you get on your feet. She really did think of everything." Tears finally came then. Real tears. Not from fear or sadness, but from gratitude. Grandma had known. She'd prepared for this. She'd protected me even after she was gone. I wasn't alone. I never had been Dot. And now it was time to show my family that I was stronger than they ever imagined. 4 days later, my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for a moment, my heart pounding, before I pressed record on the device Stephen gave me and answered. "Hello," I said, keeping my voice small and uncertain. "Adeline, sweetheart?" Her voice was dripping with fake sweetness, like honey over poison. "Baby, we've been so worried about you. Where are you staying? Are you safe?" I almost laughed. Worried? They'd thrown me into a blizzard and now they were worried. I'm staying with a friend," I lied. "Oh, honey, that's no way to live. Come home. We overreacted. Your stepfather feels terrible about what happened. We just want our family back together." She paused. "We can talk about the house situation like adults. No pressure. Just a calm family discussion." Every word felt like a manipulation, like hands reaching through the phone trying to pull me back into their trap. But I remembered Stephen's advice. "Let them think they're winning, okay?" I said quietly. "When?" "Tomorrow. Around noon. We'll have lunch just like old times. 'Kay, Mom? I'll be there." The next day, I dressed carefully. I wanted to look young, uncertain, vulnerable. Exactly what they expected. But inside my jacket pocket was the recorder already running. And following behind me in his own car was Stephen. When I knocked on the door, Vanessa answered. She looked surprised to see me, maybe even a little guilty. But it vanished quickly. "She's here," she called over her shoulder. Mom rushed to the door and hugged me. It felt wrong, like being embraced by a stranger wearing my mother's face. Come in, come in. You must be freezing." Greg was sitting at the dining table with papers spread out in front of him. My stomach dropped. They'd already prepared documents. "Adeline, sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Let's talk business." "I thought Mom said no pressure," I said softly. "This isn't pressure, sweetie. This is just being prepared." He slid a paper toward me. "This is a simple agreement. You sell the house, we split the proceeds fairly, and everyone moves forward. Clean, simple, fair." I picked up the paper, pretending to read it, buying time. "What's fair mean? Like equal parts?" Greg exchanged a look with my mother. "Well, not exactly equal. Your mother and I would get 60% since we're the heads of household. You and Vanessa would split the remaining 40. My blood boiled, but I kept my face neutral. So I get 20% of my own house. It's more than fair considering you're just 18 with no real expenses yet." Greg said, his voice getting harder. "Sign it, Adeline. Stop making this difficult." That's when I heard the front door open. Stephen walked in, professional and calm, carrying a briefcase. Greg shot to his feet. "Who the hell are you?" "Stephen Morrison, attorney at law. I represent Miss Adeline Hart." He set his briefcase on the table with a decisive thud. "And I'm here to inform you that any further attempts to coerce my client into relinquishing her legal property will result in criminal charges." My mother's face went white. "Adeline, what is this?" I stood up, and for the first time in my life, I looked at my mother without fear. "This is me protecting what Grandma gave me. What she knew you'd try to steal?" Stephen pulled out a folder. "I have documented evidence of harassment, emotional abuse, and child endangerment. You threw an 18-year-old into a blizzard with nowhere to go. That's actionable." "We were teaching her responsibility," Greg sputtered. You were punishing her for refusing to give you money that isn't yours, Stephen said coldly. He pressed play on a small recorder. My mother's voice filled the room. Come home, sweetheart. We can talk about the house situation like adults. Then Greg's voice. Sign it, Adeline. Stop making this difficult. Vanessa looked horrified. Mom started crying, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. I looked at each of them. These people who were supposed to love me. Grandma gave me that house because she knew exactly who you were. She saw what I was too young to see. And now I see it too. Adeline, please, Mom whispered. I'm your mother. A mother doesn't choose money over her daughter, I said, my voice breaking, but strong. A mother doesn't stand silent while her husband throws her child into the snow. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. I turned and walked toward the door. Stephen followed behind me. I heard Greg slam his fist on the table. I heard my mother sob. But I didn't turn around because for the first time in my life, I was walking toward my future instead of away from it. The first night I spent in Grandma's house. I slept on an air mattress in the living room because there was no furniture yet. The heating system made strange clanking noises and the hardwood floors creaked with every step. But when I woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through the windows, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace, Tum. Margaret came over that first week with homemade soup and cleaning supplies. Your grandmother would be so proud of you, she said, squeezing my hand. She knew you had steel in your spine. She just needed you to find it. Together, we cleaned every room. We scrubbed floors and washed windows until they sparkled. And with every stroke of the cloth, I felt like I was washing away the pain my family had caused. This house was becoming mine, not just on paper, but in my heart. I found a part-time job at a bookstore 3 blocks away. The owner, Linda, was a kind woman in her 50s who didn't ask too many questions when I told her I needed flexible hours. The money wasn't much, but it was mine. Earned by my own hands, not taken from anyone else. My mother tried calling 17 times in the first month. I didn't answer. She sent text messages that swung wildly between angry and pleading. You're tearing this family apart. We miss you. You're being selfish. Please come home. I blocked her number after the 17th message. Greg tried a different approach. He showed up at the house one evening, banging on the door. I know you're in there, Adeline. We need to talk. But Stephen had already filed a restraining order. When Greg didn't leave, I called the police. Watching him being escorted off my property, looking shocked that I'd actually done it, felt like Justice. Vanessa was the only one whose silence hurt. We'd never been close, but she was still my sister in some way. I wondered sometimes if she felt guilty or if she even thought about me at all. 3 months after I moved in, I decided to rent out the spare bedroom. I needed help with expenses, and the house felt too big and empty for just me. I interviewed 5 people before I met Rachel. She was 23, a nursing student with a warm smile and kind eyes. When she walked through the house, she said, "This place feels like love lives here. I can feel it in the walls." I almost cried. My grandmother built this with love, I told her, and I'm trying to keep that alive. Rachel moved in a week later, and suddenly the house didn't feel empty anymore. She'd make coffee in the morning, and we'd sit on the porch before our shifts, talking about everything and nothing. She never pushed me to talk about my family, but when I finally did, she just listened and said, "You deserved better. I'm glad you fought for yourself." One Saturday afternoon, 6 months after everything happened, I was painting the kitchen a soft yellow color when I found something tucked behind the cabinet. It was an envelope with my name on it in Grandma's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Adeline, if you're reading this, it means you've kept the house. It means you stood strong against whatever came your way. I knew your mother would make this difficult. I saw the changes in her after she married Greg. It's the way she started valuing things over people. This house isn't just wood and nails, sweetheart. It's your foundation. It's proof that you are loved, that you matter, that you deserve a place in this world that no one can take from you. Build your life here. Fill it with people who see your worth. And know that every sunrise you watch from that porch, I'm watching it with you. You were always enough, Adeline. Always. All my love. Grandma, I sat on the kitchen floor and cried. But they weren't sad tears anymore. They were tears of gratitude, of healing, of finally understanding that I hadn't lost my family that night in the blizzard. I'd lost people who never truly valued me. And in their place, I'd found something better. I'd found myself. The house still needed work. The porch railing was loose and the bathroom tiles were cracked. But every imperfection was mine to fix, mine to improve, mine to love. Sometimes late at night, I'd sit in the window seat Grandma used to love and look out at the street. I'd think about that terrified girl standing in the snow, believing she had nothing. She'd been wrong. She'd had everything she needed all along. She just hadn't known it yet. And now? Now I was building a life I was proud of. A life filled with people like Margaret and Rachel and Linda, who chose to care about me not because they had to, but because they wanted to. My mother sent one final message 3 weeks ago. I hope you're happy with your choices. I didn't respond. But if I had, I would have told her the truth. I am happy. Happier than I ever was pretending to be part of a family that didn't want me. This house saved me. But more than that, fighting for it taught me that I was worth saving. And that's a lesson no amount of money could ever buy. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people who are supposed to protect you, I want you to know something. You are stronger than their cruelty. You are worth more than their manipulation. And sometimes the greatest gift isn't being loved by everyone. It's learning to love yourself enough to walk away from people who don't deserve you. My grandmother gave me more than a house. She gave me permission to fight for myself. And I'll spend the rest of my life honoring that gift. If my story touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about survival, strength, and second chances. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose yourself over family? What did that teach you? Thank you for listening to my story. This is Adeline reminding you that you are never as alone as you feel. And you are always, always worth fighting for.